everybody, we're back, and what we have here is a piece of oak. Now, full disclosure, this is a little bit green still. I know it's been out in the sun drying for quite a while, but I don't know how long. But I can just tell from the darkness from my wedge pounding to split it that there's still a lot of moisture in this log. But I want to try to see how this oak warps, because I like how if a bowl doesn't crack it, it warps and gets that kind of cupped shape. I like it. So, haven't turned oak in a while. I was having some inspiration issues today, and I'm just gonna turn this. And turning green wood is sort of easy. So, let's see what happens.
Hello everyone. Robot Harry here. Yeah. Zed is wrong again. This is clearly not oak. There is nothing about this that looks like oak. Okay, to be fair, it was a big log and the bark is maybe, with a stretch, in the vicinity of a very anemic oak tree, but come on. What this is a very old mature willow tree that has been growing in moist soil near a spring for many years. The pink hue that appears in the wood when you cut it is a diagnostic feature for identifying willow. Another obvious sign of willow is that the wood fuzzes up when you try to turn detailed features like a beaded rim. As the wood dries out, this gets less annoying, but it is always an aspect of willow that you have to deal with. So there you have it. Feel free to ridicule Zed in the comments for confusing two very different trees. Interestingly, in the ancient Sumerian text, Gilgamesh, and Enkidu and the Netherworld, they discuss the seeds of the halupu tree as being useful for curing infertility. Due to the difficulties of translating Mesopotamian cuneiform, it is unclear if the halupu tree is willow, oak or poplar. So Zed's confusion puts him in good standing with ancient authors of Sumerian epics. Thanks for watching.
right, folks, that was that. You know, I thought this was oak, but I don't think it is now. Not sure what it is. My brain wants to say willow, but it doesn't quite fit that either, so I'm not sure what I'm looking at. This was in a pile of logs next to a bird sanctuary near my house, so it could be either one. Anyway, this was probably a little too green. You can see where it fuzzed up in the video. You can see there's a lot of fuzziness on this rim here. It doesn't seem sandable. Sometimes you can torch it and get it to harden up, but I turned this too soon. But the good news is I have a bunch of it, so I'm going to let the other logs season for a bit before I turn them. And this one will be, you know, I don't know, something. So thanks for watching, and hit those buttons, and we'll see you next time. And let me know what you guys think this wood is. I think it's willow. This pinkness is what's throwing me. And it's a huge log for a willow. Usually willow doesn't get this big. So anyway, see you next time.